The day after his inauguration, President Trump signed an executive order banning DEI in the federal government, urging the private sector to restore merit-based policies. The EO said the following: roughly 60 years after the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, critical and influential institutions of American society, including the federal government, financial institutions, major corporations, medical industry, large commercial airlines, law enforcement agencies, and institutions of higher education, have adopted and actively used dangerous, demeaning, and immoral race and sex-based preferences under the guise of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion doctrines. These DEI doctrines can violate the civil rights law of this nation. That's what the EO said. Now, ideologically, DEI is a Marxist and racist doctrine that violates fundamental American tenets like equality and justice for all. In practice, it's dangerous dogma that degrades families and institutions and individuals, even placing lives at risk. This is very apparent in the medical field. When I went to medical school, admission was straightforward. You had to be the best. I earned my place through demonstrating excellence. But now, medical excellence in America is being eroded by the relentless creep of diversity over merit. Medical schools now often prioritize skin color and sexual preference over achievement, leading to a healthcare system increasingly staffed by incompetent doctors who are selected specifically for their willingness to promote radical ideologies rather than an ability to treat the patient in front of them. Here is a snapshot of how DEI has affected medicine. At UCLA David Geffen School of Medicine, Black and Hispanic applicants face different admission standards than white and Asian peers. Critics of this policy face repercussions, including mandatory diversity re-education. This has led to what admissions officials say is a shocking decline in student performance, with over 50% failing standardized tests after rotations, compared to national 5%. This is UCLA. The school's medical research ranking also dropped dramatically from 6th to 18th, a 300% drop. That is incredible. An anti-racism strategic plan from Duke University School of Medicine claims that traits like perfectionism and punctuality in the medical profession are hallmarks of white supremacy. Medical students at Washington University in St. Louis are forced to study racism through a required course called Equity, Health, and Justice, which teaches students to view the medical profession through the lens of racial division and animosity. The Association of American Medical Colleges, AAMC, which accredits medical schools through the Liaison Committee on Medical Education, makes DEI a requirement for accreditation. Many schools now demand applicants pledge their commitment to DEI during the application process. For example, my alma mater for residency, the Stony Brook School of Medicine, has asked applicants to explain, quote, the role of a physician in addressing systemic racism and societal injustice. UC Davis School of Medicine developed a mandatory anti-racism course for students. LSU, Louisiana State University Health Shreveport, has forced faculty to undergo annual unconscious bias and cultural sensitivity, diversity, and bias training. At the University of Minnesota Twin Cities Medical School, medical students recited an oath at their white coat ceremony to fight white supremacy, colonialism, the gender binary, ableism, criticizing Western medicine for marginalizing indigenous practices. The list goes on and on. The New England Journal of Medicine published research suggesting that medical education at its core is racist, recommending making racism a focus, pushing for racial segregation in education. DEI creates weak students. Weak students create weak doctors, and weak doctors kill people. both the individual patients in their care and by becoming government mouthpieces. Such doctors are more concerned with activism than accuracy, more interested in maintaining popularity than challenging medical dogma. A student who is taught that disparities in health outcomes are driven by systemic oppression and discrimination poses a danger to patients and the healthcare system. I earned admission to medical school based on merit. I was taught to treasure scientific inquiry. So when government doctors declared in 2020 that the science was settled, I knew to reject such an assertion. I saw through the pseudoscience propping up mask mandates, lockdowns, and forced experimental injections. And I informed the American people about safe and effective early treatments like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, along with the foundational invitation to research and think through these medical questions for themselves. My colleagues, however, marched in lockstep with the medical industrial complex, obediently defending every baseless and flawed policy, attacking me for dissent, and showing they were trained to mindlessly comply with bureaucracy rather than think independently. Contrary to its claim of diversity, DEI is a totalitarian ideology that demands conformity. It has no tolerance for free thinkers and requires blind obedience. Followers of DEI are sheep, and doctors who follow the DEI orthodoxy are sheep led by wolves. When physicians refuse to administer ivermectin to COVID-19 patients, they clear the path for Big Pharma to push their mRNA vaccines, which couldn't get emergency FDA approval while other treatments like ivermectin were available. By failing to provide their patients with proper care, these doctors willingly but unwittingly served a predatory agenda that profits from chronic illness. Abolishing DEI is not just a moral imperative, it's a chance to return to medical excellence. Restoring merit-based policies will foster an environment where talent and determination, not identity and skin color, drive success. Our healthcare system will flourish because it will produce doctors with intellectual independence who lead with skill. When we choose merit, we choose excellence, and all patients deserve nothing less than our best. Thank you for listening. Dr. Simone Gold.